Adi Shankar's a curious character when it comes to the face of adult animation. He went from doing his own independent projects on YouTube and other platforms to eventually moving on to bigger and better things such as Castlevania and Devil May Cry, the main subject matter of this video. But, unfortunately for us fans, this wasn't exactly a great climbing of the hierarchy. See, there's a problem with Adi Shankar and his works. They're bad. Yes, in certain cases he seems to understand it. He's made, honestly, a few really good comments about understanding Devil May Cry's lore and its inner complexities. But when it comes to the actual show, it just didn't line up with any of that. So, today we'll be discussing Mr. Shankar and his various things that bled into the series. See, when it comes to his works, he has two separate universes. His bootleg universe and his other one under his name, which is honestly a little pretentious, but... And so, part of the whole thing with this Devil May Cry anime is that it was meant to be under the ladder. This was meant to be as faithful and riveting and direct of an interpretation as possible. This was meant to be no Demasy, where Dante smokes and drinks and all that fun stuff. No, this was meant to be one-to-one, Dante is Dante, Vergil is Vergil, Lady is Lady, and all that. And so, fans like us, we were excited for this. However, this project had a 6-year turnaround time from its initial announcement, because this was announced right after Devil May Cry 5 back in 2019. And this video now is 6 years later. It took us forever to get this project. And apparently, he spent 2.5 years just writing the scripts for the first season. And they honestly don't come across that well written for how long it supposedly took him and his partner to put together the plot. And honestly, it kind of hurts the fandom by putting a sour taste in everyone's mouths when they thought this would be faithful, and they thought this would be a really good product because of how long it took. And then, instead of getting fan-favorite characters such as like Trish or Nero or anyone like that, they're instead just not a part of the storyline, and we get Osmond Gold, a real-life YouTuber, instead of our favorite game characters. Stuff like that already kind of ruins the immersion once you know it, let alone once we get to the later intricacies of what happens in the storyline. Because the problem is that Dante isn't a hero. Mary isn't conflicted about any of the stuff with her family. And Vergil ends up becoming a Mundus pawn. Like, that's something he'd never do. And worst of all, we get scenes that are just completely out of place from a Devil May Cry story, such as, Vice President Baines bombing out hell with a bunch of fighter jets. That's not okay, especially since it's an analogy, I'll give it that. It's definitely a metaphor for the situation of the War on Terror, but at some point, acting like you're sending a good message about it isn't worth the fact that this affected real people. This was a real situation that happened, and the best you can do is to say, oh, America was just the bad guys, and the people who actually were affected and died from this situation, this war on terror, they're just little pawns in our story. They don't matter. The people affected from this do not matter. And I feel like it's really disrespectful to boil down your message to that, to treat it like that's all they are, is just, of course, people being pawns in a much greater scheme is a thing that happens all the time. However, it's just disrespectful to bring this situation up posthumously when all you have to say is, man, it sucks all these people died, but I guess that's that. It shows how privileged a man of his caliber is, because he didn't have to go through any of those situations. He could just live the high life. Now, another thing I'd like to discuss about one Hottie Guy's character is that the word is that he's pretty morally bankrupt. I mean, he did all this promotion saying how, making a story about how much he disliked people such as President Bush, when he turns around and proceeds to go gallivant around the current president's party for their inauguration. It shows how two-faced and easily willing to grift for the situation he is. He doesn't care about any of what he claims to believe in. He's just using us for a buck. And worse, and this is up for debate as we don't know the entire truth of the matter, a Reddit post actually came out from 9 years ago, before Audie was as popular as he was now, breaking down and explaining some of his horrible industry practices, such as exploiting other people that worked in his studio in the worst kinds of ways, and taking credit by just slapping his money into a project that went over budget and claiming all of the creative credit, while not having done a thing, which technically could invalidate my previous points. But at the end of the day, when you choose to put your name on something, you have to stand by that in full. And by him choosing to put his name on the project that was the Devil May Cry anime, that in turn should mean that those are his beliefs. That is what he chooses to believe in. And yet, his actions show otherwise. His actions show that people are just disposable to him, and that he'll just move on to the next thing yet. In fact, recently articles have come out that after this success of this, we will not only be getting to season 2, but he's going to be moving on to another game series. Do we know what this is yet? No, but I don't think this is what the fans want, is for another one of their most beloved series to become grifted. I mean, this has already happened to Castlevania, this has already happened to Ubisoft fans, which I know, surprising that that's even a thing. And this has happened to us Devil May Cry fans. And honestly, it's not that politics doesn't have a place in media. It can be very good. My favorite series is No More Heroes, a very good political series. However, when all you have to say is that people becoming victims of a government scheme is bad, and that you're going to give your little stand-in IDF soldiers these cute little outfits that are a reference to a classic game, it's kind of disgusting, because real people were affected by this. It makes him come across as so tone-deaf and utterly careless without tact. And I feel he needs to be called out on this, because sometimes that's just what you have to do, is call out someone. Like, exploiting what he claims to believe in for his own greed. Shankar is a grifter through and through, and I hope to not see his name on another project, or if I do, I hope he learns from these lessons, which he unfortunately won't because he made money off this. He probably made a lot of money too, more than we could imagine. And so I'd like to just close this video off by saying, do you like his works? And if so, why? Believe me, I wish I watched the same series fans like of it had as well. I wanted to watch the Devil May Cry anime that was good and high quality. I wanted it to be amazing. But for me, it was just another soulless corporate cash grab. So, this was SP signing off, and I'll see you in my next one.